Welcome, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us this morning as we launch a new partnership to advance a broad array of community interests related to the future of Diablo Canyon. My name is Melissa James, and I'm the CEO of REACH, a regional economic action coalition serving San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara counties, with the mission to increase economic prosperity through big thinking, bold action, and regional collaboration. I'm really excited to be here this morning, joined by 9 committed community leaders who, like the over 200 guests here on this call, care deeply about the future of the Diablo Canyon site and lands. These public servants represent a cross-section of our Central Coast community, each filled with unique perspectives, passions, and dreams about this very special property, as well as the commitment to shaping its future. We're excited for you to hear from each of them directly today. Many of you remember that the announced closure of Diablo in 2016 was the catalyst that brought REACH into existence. The organization was founded as the Hourglass Project to mitigate and plan for the economic impact of the plant's closure and the economic future of the region. That is why influencing the transformation of Diablo remains a core initiative in our REACH 2030 plan to create 15,000 new good-paying jobs by 2030. It's both a complex challenge and a monumental opportunity for our region. I think we all understand the complexity of the challenge, but what exactly is the opportunity? Well, we look at it as this. The opportunity before us is to shape the future of the existing facilities and infrastructure, plus 12,000 acres of pristine land and 14 miles of unspoiled coastline, into an attractive mix of land conservation, honoring the legacy of the YTT Northern Chumash, sustainable ecotourism, renewable energy, water resilience, and cutting-edge research and development. It's also critical for our community that we ensure that the massive $4 billion project of decommissioning the plant proceeds with maximum safety and efficiency. This means putting nuclear material into dry cask storage as soon as possible and ensuring our local businesses and labor are prioritized for contracts and work. With decisions about decommissioning and future use being made in the near term, we must work urgently and collaboratively to ensure that the region's best long-term interests are planned for and pursued. The demolition and repurposing of the site is a community-wide imperative, and that is why we're so excited to announce a landmark first step toward advancing the community's interest, specifically in the decommissioning and future use of the industrial site of Parcel P. This agreement, through a memorandum of understanding, is between Cal Poly, the Land Conservancy of San Luis Obispo, the YTT Northern Chumash, the Tri-Counties Building and Construction Trades Council, and elected officials from the county, state, and federal levels, in addition to REACH. The purpose of the MOU is to create a framework for collaboration and action to advance community interests, both in the immediate and over the long term. The role of REACH in the MOU is to work across sectors, political aisles, and a range of interests to organize and catalyze our region into a shared action plan to pursue the best possible economic, environmental, and social outcomes at Diablo. We will be regularly convening the partners to advance our collective interests. Why is this coalition model needed? Well, the coalition model was absolutely critical to the community interests being represented and acted upon for the mitigation of the closure impact via SB 1090, which is a testament to the leadership of Assemblyman Cunningham, Senator Monning, as well as the diligent advocacy by the SLO County community from the county, cities, and many of us on the call today. And we believe that the next steps related to decommissioning and future use will require the same coalition model. It's also worth noting that the community interests are well documented, and a lot of thought and planning has taken place over the past few years to envision the future for Diablo. This partnership is not reinventing the wheel to come up with the vision. Those trails have been blazed. This partnership is moving to action to realize that vision, a vision that includes advancing broad community interests, which you're going to hear more about from the signatories of the MOU today. At REACH, we are keenly interested in supporting a much larger transition to innovating clean energy across the state. Reaching California's ambitious goals will take folks stepping up to be leaders and innovators in research and development, forging a path to a new renewable energy economy. Put simply, we believe that the Central Coast should be the gateway to a new frontier of renewable energy innovation. In particular, with 2 out of only 3 designated places for offshore wind energy development in California off the coast of Diablo and Morro Bay, we believe we must work to ensure the policy and regulatory decisions at the state and federal level make way for this new industry to take root and bring both clean energy and economic benefit to the Central Coast and the state of California. We believe this transition will involve good paying jobs in STEM-related fields with ripple effects in building and construction trades, development, project management, logistics, and beyond, with benefits that will be felt across our region. Now, before we turn it over to hear from our speakers, I want to give a really quick primer through a visual. On the slide on the screen, you can see what is approximately a 600-acre industrial site called Parcel P. The decommissioning and or future use of these buildings represented here is a simple decision about whether or not to demolish these buildings and remove them or preserve and repurpose them for new and alternative uses. We are very interested in accomplishing the latter, and we must work quickly to support that outcome. The second slide you're going to see on your screen shows where the Parcel P industrial site sits in proximity to the 12,000 acres of surrounding lands. These parcels are outlined in the yellow and green, and they represent the Diablo Canyon lands, including the North Ranch, the South Ranch, and Wild Cherry Canyon. The decommissioning and future use of Parcel P are represented by 9 partners on the MOU being announced today. Alongside this MOU, related to decommissioning and reuse of Parcel P, is a complementary MOU focused on the 12,000 undeveloped acres surrounding the 600-acre industrial site. This MOU is a subset of the larger partnership focused specifically on activating the conservation of the pristine habitat and ancestral home of the Waititi Northern Chumash. All the parties are supportive and committed to the community interests related to Parcel P and the lands and are working in tandem to achieve them. With that, let's jump into the discussion with our speakers today. To MC the remainder of the program, I'm going to hand it over to Andrew Hackelman of REACH, the project lead for this MOU. At REACH, we are so grateful to have Andrew's leadership and expertise pulling together many pieces of the puzzle that will unlock the next chapter of innovation and conservation at Diablo. Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks so much, Melissa. I'm honored to be able to host this conversation today on such a vital and exciting topic. And it's really great to see so many of you joining us this morning. We have 10 really amazing speakers with us today, all of our MOU signatories who have made commitments to working together to advance community interests at Diablo, who each have up to 3 minutes to share their role in our joint vision, as well as their unique perspective on this transformational opportunity. And to wrap things up, we'll hear from the founder of a Washington, D.C. think tank called the Decommissioning Collaborative, who is committed to providing expertise and guidance through this journey with us. We'll have time for a few questions at the end, so feel free to submit those anytime through the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. We'll get to as many as we can before wrapping up at 11, so we have a pretty tight timeline today. First up, it's really a pleasure and an honor for me to get to introduce our Congressman, Salud Carbajal. He's been an incredible champion for Diablo Canyon, for offshore wind, our businesses, conservation, and the economic future of the Central Coast region. Welcome today, Congressman.
Thank you, Andrew, and good morning to everyone. I want to start by thanking REACH, Melissa, Andrew again, Julie, for bringing everyone together again today to reaffirm our commitment and our support to work together on this very important issue, and for leading the charge to help prepare our region for the negative impacts associated with the closure of the Diablo Canyon power plant. While I'm disappointed we can't meet together in person, I'm glad that we're doing this virtually to discuss our collective efforts and plans for the future. The decommissioning and ultimate closure of Diablo Canyon power plant has hung over our region since it was announced in 2016. That's longer than I've been in office. In fact, It's longer than many of the elected officials and my colleagues that are on this call today. We are all aware of the impacts that Diablo's closure will have on our Central Coast economy, and we are all eager to discuss how to mitigate them. The planning we do now will help soften the economic impacts we feel later on. Supporting our community through the closure of Diablo has been a top priority of mine since my first day in office. Our challenge is to ensure a safe closure of the plant while investing in our local workforce by creating good paying, future-oriented jobs. With this challenge, I see vast opportunities. I am focused on securing all available federal resources to bring renewable energy development to our community and helping clear the way for offshore wind on the Central Coast. I'm glad the state of California, with my state legislator colleagues, are now pursuing a broader strategy that incorporates our local regional efforts. The Central Coast has always been a center point of creativity and innovation. I envision a renewable energy hub here on the Central Coast, which we can achieve by encouraging green energy development and embracing new technologies. Through investments and incentives, we can attract new businesses that create good paying jobs and develop programs with the potential to produce highly skilled, quality careers, all while setting us on a path to a more sustainable future. This will ensure that those who live on the Central Coast are able to continue to earn a living here. There is no single perfect solution for replacing Diablo Canyon. However, if we invest in modern solutions to fortify our future, we can emerge with a stronger economy that benefits our workers and our environment. Each of us here today has a part to play in ensuring that we foster an environment that allows us to pursue any and every opportunity. I am excited that we are taking steps to coordinate our work and ensure we are setting ourselves up for successful solutions. More importantly, I am confident this group will put us on the right path to harness our strengths, to support our workforce, and to create more economic opportunities. And I am excited to be part of it. Thank you. Upward and onward. Back to you, Andrew.
Thank you so much, Congressman, for your work at the federal level to advance the interests of the Central Coast and the residents here. We can't tell you how much we appreciate your partnership and all the work you've done. I'd now like to introduce Assemblyman Jordan Cunningham. The Assemblyman is a really strong supporter of our local businesses, renewable energy, and our local workforce. He's been an invaluable leader and advocate, helping our region mitigate the impacts of Diablo's closure every step of the way. And we're always happy to have him with us. Assemblyman Cunningham, welcome.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, everybody on the call. Thank you, Reach. Thank you, Congressman Carbajal. I want to use my 3 minutes to talk about the past, the present, and the future. Let's start with the past. There's no doubt Diablo Canyon has been the major economic driver of the Central Coast for decades and supplied nearly 10% of the state's energy, nearly 10%, 1/10, carbon emission free. We put together a partnership and a coalition with SB 1090, Senator Monning, myself, the local elected leaders of SLO County, labor, the environment folks. I mean, we had a wonderful coalition and we were able to set up a plan in place that provided economic mitigation as we prepare for the closure. It has long been my fear that when Diablo Canyon is decommissioned, it's going to be something akin to the steel factories leaving Pennsylvania. But the reason it's not going to be that for us is Reach and the partnership and everybody on this call. We are doing more to plan for the future right now than I think any other community facing an economic cataclysmic event in our near future. So SB 1090 gave us the framework, it gave us the community impact mitigation funding, it gave us the workforce protection funding. So we can make sure that the folks that do the hard work there, the highly trained, certificated, specialized workforce that we have there, over 1,500 people, head of household, over 2,000 during certain time periods of the year, could continue their work through 2025 and be compensated fairly for it. So that's the past. The present is what we're doing right now. We're planning, we're collaborating, we're putting together this MOU, gives us a framework, a structure. so that we can continue our work and be ready for the change we're going to see. And the future, I believe, is full of opportunity for us in the clean energy space. As Andrew alluded to, as Salud alluded to, the Central Coast has the capacity and some unique characteristics to become a clean energy hub. Our bill AB 525, which would require for the first time in California history that the PUC identify a target, a specific target of 3 gigawatts by 2030 for offshore wind development. That is, if you'll pardon the terrible dad pun, that is the wind in the sails we need to get offshore wind right here off the coast of off the Central Coast. And we have the grid tie-in. It's right there waiting for us to use. We've got space in Morro Bay where they're potentially looking at siting the largest battery storage facility in North America. We need to seize these opportunities. It's jobs, it's power we desperately need. The world's not going to run backwards. We're going to need more electrons than ever. We're building more housing. That's more AC units. We're electrifying vehicles. We are moving to the cloud. Everything in the cloud, on the cloud, all requires more electricity. So as we face the future in 2025 with the impending decommissioning, we need to be working together collaboratively through this MOU structure that we've created, through our relationships, federal, state, local, and work with our partners at PG&E, and the potential investment that is willing to come in here and spend big time private dollars to build out offshore wind generation capacity. And we need to make sure at all times, like we've done all along since 2016 till now, that we're protecting the local workforce in all of these things. So that's what I'm looking forward to doing. I think I'm supposed to introduce Senator Laird, or maybe Andrew's doing that, but let's keep up the good work, and we are going to do some great things for the Central Coast. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Assemblyman Cunningham. We really do truly look forward to working with you to make this shared vision for the future of Diablo Canyon a reality. Now we'll hear from the SLO County 4th District Supervisor and Board Chair, Lynn Compton. The County Board of Supervisors of San Luis Obispo voted on Tuesday to join the MOU. We're very grateful for their leadership and commitment to this very important issue. The county plays a very important role as well as the lead agency for CEQA, which Supervisor Compton will share more about with us. Welcome, Supervisor Compton.
Good morning. I'm pleased to be here today to discuss the county's role in this process. On Tuesday, the County Board of Supervisors joined the MOU partnership with all of the signatories here. The goals align with our legislative priorities related to decommissioning and future use of the Diablo Canyon power plant that include commencing with safe and immediate decommissioning once all permits have been obtained, the use of local labor in the decommissioning efforts, and the reuse of the site in an economically and environmentally sound manner. Our priorities are critical to ensuring that the interests of our community are realized. The county will support the MOU by working with our partners to pursue legislative efforts that are aligned with these shared priorities. The county will have the lead role in conducting the environmental analysis for Diablo decommissioning since the power plant is in the county's jurisdiction. That's a very important role that I would like to take a few minutes to describe. First, it's important to point out that when a utility company like PG&E decides not to relicense with the Nuclear Regulation Commission, the power plant can be decommissioned in one of two ways: safe, store, or decon. With safe store, the plant stays in a relatively static state with the physical nuclear plant components staying in place for many years or even decades. For the Diablo Canyon power plant, PG&E has opted for decon, which means that the plant moves forward with immediate demolition and the nuclear materials will be securely placed in dry casks for storage, the safest option. The county is supportive of this decision because it is in the interest of our residents, and it will also more quickly unlock the potential reuse of the PG&E Parcel P site and the use of the surrounding lands. But before decommissioning of the Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant can begin, compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA as it is known, is required. For the project, an environmental impact report, or EIR, will be prepared, which will analyze the project's environmental impacts on approximately 20 issue areas, including traffic, air quality, biological resources, and cultural and tribal resources. Given the scale of the project, this will be a very comprehensive and detailed EIR. This is important because our community is counting on us to ensure decommissioning and the future safe reuse, and to keep their interests in the forefront. The EIR is purely informational in nature. It ensures that decision makers and the public have good information in front of them, so they understand and appreciate the potential environmental impacts of the project and how the county intends to mitigate them. The EIR, however, does not analyze everything regarding the project, such as economic impacts, and the board will need to take into consideration many other issues and policies above and beyond the information outlined in this EIR when considering the decommissioning permits. The California State Lands Commission and the Coastal Commission also have project jurisdiction for project features and development in and around the tidal and submerged lands. The county's coastal development permit is also appealable to the Coastal Commission. Given all of this, the county will be working hand in hand with these two agencies to ensure that the EIR meets the agency's needs. In addition to the decommissioning and demolition activities associated with decommissioning, the EIR will also evaluate future site reuse alternatives. The site reuse analysis will be done at a higher programmatic level, which will enable the county to then use the EIR to streamline the environmental review and consideration of future specific site reuse applications. The county has drafted a request for proposal for a consultant to prepare the environmental impact report, which is currently being reviewed by the State Lands Commission and the Coastal Commission. The RFP will then be issued later this month. So in closing this out, an unprecedented community partnership has been established by this MOU and provides a forum to address future possibilities of the power plant site. By coming together as a community with the shared objectives of determining the best reuse of the land, we can work to ensure that the interests of San Luis Obispo County and our residents are fully represented. And I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today on this important topic.
Thank you, Supervisor Compton. We look forward to continuing this fruitful relationship in the months and years to come. Now I'd like to welcome Supervisor Dawn Ortiz-Legg. Supervisor Ortiz-Legg represents District 3, which encompasses Diablo Canyon. Her deep background in energy, her passion for economic development, and her service as 3rd District Planning Commissioner have her at the leading edge of this discussion. Supervisor Ortiz-Legg has been a strong advocate and passionate leader on all things related to Diablo, and we are grateful to have her on the team. Welcome, Supervisor Ortiz-Legg.
Thank you, Andrew, and good morning, everyone. I am the new 3rd District Supervisor, Dawn Ortiz-Legg, and this place, Diablo Canyon, is in the 3rd District. Diablo Canyon has an incredible legacy of benefiting local inhabitants. Whether it was the ancient headquarters of the First Nation to its present day occupants, which is about 2 generations of dedicated Central Coast men and women that right now still provide California with 9% of its electric power needs. This place is charged with purpose, and so am I. Today, I'm honored to be with my esteemed colleagues as we set forth the intention to create an even broader vision so this place can be the ideal 21st century model of energy innovation and energy generation. This is my top priority, and from my experience of implementation of large initiatives, I know we can make this happen. It will be done through collaboration, building relationships and coalitions, and working across the aisle to create policy incentives and investment strategies to encourage the optimal use of Parcel P. So again, let's talk about Parcel P. You know, it's a small city with water, power, a marina, a desalination plant, and an interconnection to deliver power to the outside world. All of that is why this place has local and statewide significance. Leveraging Parcel P makes for endless possibilities, from climate and energy planning efforts to energy storage systems to renewable resources. And just note that in the final months of 2020, electricity generation from wind turbines in the United States set daily and hourly records. Plus, there's marine biotech and many other developing technologies. On this climate changing planet, we must make smart choices for our energy needs and leave this door open to welcome tomorrow's technology. Preserving the industrial footprint on Parcel P offers the opportunity for San Luis Obispo County to carry on its 100 years plus tradition of being an energy exporting county. In a state that uses more energy than it can produce, we must continue this tradition, which has provided our Central Coast families a balanced quality of life with great careers set amongst a pristine environment. Here's to honoring the past, recognizing the present, and focusing together for a carbon-free energy future for our community and our beautiful state. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Ortiz-Legg. We're very grateful to have your dedication and experience working for your district and the county as a whole. Next, we'll hear from Joshua Medrano, the Secretary Treasurer for the Tri-Counties Building and Construction Trades Council, representing many of our local building trades contractors and labor force that support the work out at Diablo Canyon. Joshua, welcome.
Thank you very much for that, Andrew. It is my honor and pleasure and privilege to be amongst this board here. As was stated, I am the Executive Secretary as well as Treasurer for the Tri-Counties Building and Construction Trades of San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, and Ventura counties, representing over 7,500 men and women in labor. Now, we are on the brink of being able to be a clean energy mecca, the cornerstone here in California, Central California, with a footprint that is already established. We understand that we are moving into a future of clean energy, and we have been progressing in that direction for many years now. And now we are on the brink of greatness, where collectively, together, we can move forward to achieve our ideals. Now, we represent skilled and trained labor who not only do their tasks in a safe and productive manner, but these are also workers that live locally, that spend locally, that raise their families, that go out together and enjoy what San Luis Obispo County has to offer. We have a unique opportunity to capture this moment and make sure that tax dollars, revenues stay here where it belongs. We also have an opportunity to create work for these local residents without having to cross county lines and having to be put out there in a world that we are currently experiencing in this pandemic. We're able to help alleviate the carbon footprint that, while leaving our homes to cross these county lines, are created. So we as the Tri-Counties Building Trades are excited about this MOU and future partnership to move forward. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Joshua. We look forward to working with you and fortifying our local labor workforce. Our next three speakers are key partners in the Parcel P partnership, as well as another complementary memorandum of understanding specific to the surrounding lands. Their leadership is critical to achieving our shared roles across the entirety of Diablo Canyon. First, I'd like to welcome Cal Poly President Jeffrey D. Armstrong. Universities are sometimes seen as removed from the real world, but that is just not the case at Cal Poly, where President Armstrong's administration, faculty, and students work actively to push innovation and sustainability via their learn by doing approach. Welcome, President Armstrong.
Thank you, Andrew. I want to take this opportunity to thank the leadership at REACH and our partners here today for building this extraordinary coalition of community leaders to help the region discover how to conserve or repurpose the natural, cultural, and technological assets represented by Diablo Canyon. We know that Diablo Canyon not only has produced a significant amount of energy for the state, but the jobs it has provided to this region are also very significant. Prior to the announcement of the closure, we were already committed to growing the economy on the Central Coast. With the announcement of closure, Cal Poly and partners have accelerated efforts to unlock greater economic, cultural, academic, and social value through the future use of Diablo. It's a monumental opportunity for our region, and I'm encouraged that the community is coming together proactively to shape our future. At Cal Poly, we're committed to working with all the MOU partners to support reuse opportunities at the industrial site known as Parcel P. We are actively investigating ways we may be able to play a role in research, innovation, and educational programming in areas such as offshore wind and other renewables and marine and oceanic research. The future of Diablo Canyon represents a gateway to the new frontier of the green economy in renewable energy and blue economy in aquaculture. Reuse of the property, supported by a trust, also provides an avenue for Cal Poly to grow to meet the increasing demand for Cal Poly graduates in the region and across the state and US. Equally important, we are deeply committed to supporting the conservation of the Diablo Canyon Lands in partnership with the titʻu, tiłhini, Northern Chumash, as well as the Land Conservancy. There's no reason why we cannot sustainably reuse facilities and land already developed while preserving this 14 miles of coastland and protecting sacred YTT Northern Chumash land. We're proactively looking at ways to generate investment to realize this grand vision. An essential idea is the creation of an endowment and a land trust that would generate the revenue that would also provide funds for repurposing of existing facilities and buildings for future research and innovation that is world-class. This funding could come from philanthropic investment, but also largely through a savings of hundreds of millions of decommissioning dollars, meaning some buildings and infrastructure could remain and come with dollars for future use that would otherwise have been paid to demolish them. This also includes the savings accrued by not removing the breakwater. This would be a big win for the ratepayer, a win for the community, and a win for clean energy future as we work to expand educational opportunities, as well as innovate and create new generation and energy storage efforts to meet the state's ambitious energy goals. Imagine if we could create research cooperation among Cal Poly, other CSU and UC partners, and even a national lab to open up new doors of innovation that would spin off new industry and economic opportunity right here on the Central Coast. With our strong tradition of learn by doing, Cal Poly is an enthusiastic partner in this effort. We're not only committed to developing world-class talent to drive the economy of the Central Coast and California, but also to spurring innovation and teaming with industry and community partners to foster growth and reach new milestones. We're excited about what the future holds. Thank you.
President Armstrong, thank you very much. We appreciate your bold ideas and leadership. Financing the opportunities we all want to see come to fruition is such an important piece of this puzzle, and our partnership via the MOU looks forward to working together to achieve those goals. Next, we'll hear from Kyla Detman, the Executive Director of the Land Conservancy of San Luis Obispo County, a critical partner and accomplished leader in land conservation in the state of California. Kyla, welcome.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you to Reach for bringing us all together. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak to you all today. We are a local 501c3 nonprofit land trust. We're organized to conserve and care for the wildlands, farms, and ranches of the Central Coast, and to connect people to the land and to each other. The Petro Coast is a remarkable and unique part of our county. The Land Conservancy is focused on conserving the lands surrounding this special place to protect its fragile coastal habitats, beautiful oak woodlands, and stunning coastal terraces and mountains. We announced last summer that we are partnering with titʻu, tiłhini, to protect the Diablo Canyon Lands. And as you have heard today, we are excited to share that Cal Poly has joined our two organizations in an effort to protect this landscape. While we are largely focused on the conservation of the land surrounding the plant and reconnecting titṟu, tiłhini with their ancestral homeland, we are excited to participate in and support this partnership around the future of Parcel P. It is inevitable that the future activities at Parcel P will interact with the surrounding lands and will impact the natural resources both on the land and in the sea. We believe that the reuse of the plant site can successfully integrate and celebrate the surrounding landscape. We look forward to lending our perspective and experience to the group and learning from a diverse suite of voices regarding all that is possible at Parcel P. Our organization is ready and willing to assist with any necessary real estate transactions, community projects, educational endeavors, fundraising, and other initiatives that come out of this planning effort. This incredible stretch of coastline has so much to offer, and its thoughtful reuse and management is a wonderful opportunity for our community. I'm really excited about this partnership and look forward to what's ahead.
Thank you very much, Kyla, and thank you for your leadership and your organization's leadership in preserving our precious natural resources. Next up is Scott Lathrop, the president of the titʻu tiłhini Northern Chumash nonprofit. The titʻu tiłhini Northern Chumash were the earliest residents of the central coast of California, inhabiting the area that now includes Diablo Canyon Lands and more for thousands of years. So it's my pleasure to introduce and welcome Scott.
Thank you, Andrew. We really appreciate the opportunity to participate. What I would like to start off with is when Reach invited titʻu tiłhini Northern Chumash tribe to join the MOU, it was an act of respect and acknowledgement of the descendants of the Pacho Coast. So on behalf of the YTT tribe, we welcome the opportunity to participate in a community process where our culture, traditions, and ancestral connection to the Pacho Coast can guide the future of our homelands. YTT sees the MOU as a vehicle to shape the future of Parcel P by developing economic opportunities for both our tribe and the greater regional community. That will respect the culture of the area and natural resources. YTT believes Parcel P's facilities can be repurposed to support research and development, higher education, blue and green economies, to fill the gap left with the decommissioning of Diablo Canyon. YTT also believes that our homeland surrounding Parcel P, commonly known as North Ranch and South Ranch, should be under the stewardship of YTT with a commitment to preserve these pristine lands for future generations. In closing, YTT is confident this partnership will lead the way to a vibrant future for the Pacho Coast. We are excited and ready to get started on the task ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. We look forward to working with you in the important mission of honoring the Chumash heritage and shepherding our community to the opportunities of the future. Our final MOU speaker this morning is State Senator John Laird, who just left early from a bill signing with the governor to be with us here today, so we thank him for that. While new to the 17th District, Senator Laird is no stranger to public service, having served in the California State Assembly, as well as Secretary of the California Natural Resources Agency. We're grateful to have his expertise on the team, and of course, in his key role, serving our community in Sacramento as Senator. Senator Laird, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Andrew. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for accommodating my schedule, and somehow in taking out the governor's backdrop in Zoom, I was unable to get this one in. So I'm just happy to be here. And it's an honor to be with this diverse coalition, because the people that have signed the MOU and are presenting today represent almost everybody from every level of government and business in the San Luis Obispo County area. And we have a big challenge. The big challenge is really to take 700 or so acres from an operating nuclear power plant and spent nuclear fuel storage facility to a post-Diablo Canyon resource that tries to protect the contribution to the economy. That is a big challenge. We have 4 years to do it. And there are a number of ways we can do it, but one of the things is Assemblymember Cunningham mentioned SB 1090, which was authored by my predecessor, Bill Monning, and supported and co-authored strongly by Assemblymember Cunningham. I'm aware of that role. I'm going to continue in those footsteps to implement it and do anything similar that is needed toward this goal. Additionally, we have about 5 things that we have to consider or do, whether it's promoting the local economy, including Central Coast labor agreements with the decommissioning activities, and we've heard from the building trades, explores the opportunity for clean new energy sources, ensures the safety of the spent fuel, protects the ecological, scenic, and cultural, and those are Chumash resources, and coordinates with the conservation and public access vision for Diablo Canyon Lands. And we don't have the answers today. That's why we're all here. And so the first of those to mention is looking at the parcel's options for clean energy. I know that Congressman Carbajal is pursuing this at the federal level. And in the northern part of the Senate district, there's battery storage at Moss Landing because there is a former power plant that provides the transmission to send it into the grid. That's why a decommissioned plant in Morro Bay offers the same opportunity for battery storage. And that's why a decommissioned Diablo Canyon offers the same transmission opportunity for offshore wind. Assemblymember Cunningham mentioned the bill to set targets for offshore wind. I'm going to co-author it just as well, although I'm going to do it without making any puns. And I think that does offer a chance to use the transmission presented by Diablo Canyon in a very usable way that keeps us away from fossil fuels into the grid, but uses the transmission, provides a boost to the economy. And then what do we do to repurpose the non-contaminated facilities and structures? And that's where, as President Armstrong mentioned, we could partner with Cal Poly or for-profit or nonprofit organizations to figure out how to do that. And then how do we protect the ecological, scenic, and cultural resources on this parcel? Much of the land has been converted to industrial uses, but it presents us with many opportunities in a way that in the developed acreage, we can use things like the desal plant for local water or for supporting a new industry there, a community about maintaining the breakwaters. There's many, many things that we can do. And then it's how can we support the Nuclear Regulatory Commission to promote the best long-term management of the spent nuclear fuel? That is something that we'll ask plenty of questions about. Should we remove it from the coast during these times of climate change and rising sea levels, to interim consolidated storage facilities being proposed in Texas and New Mexico? What are the answers to that question? And that's what this process can help us do. And then lastly, how do we coordinate other groups including the Diablo Canyon Decommissioning Engagement Panel, the Diablo Canyon Lands working groups? How do we make sure they complement each other? How do we make sure their goals and their efforts are being represented in this process as we look to how to do the things I've outlined we have to do to get to the end? And I know that the future of the natural lands is very important. It was just mentioned by our tribal representative in the context of their historic heritage and their historic culture and what comes with it. But we have a unique opportunity to make sure that these lands are conserved for generations to the future. And that is an opportunity we should not pass up. As the governor has made his goal of trying to conserve 30% of lands, both marine and terrestrial, by 2030, that gives us the opportunity to help meet his goal and maybe leverage some state resources into this process. So all these things are things I want to work on. I've landed in Sacramento on the budget committee, on the rules committee, in a lot of places that will help with this process. And I really want to work with all the partners. And it is an impressive array of partners, and it's impressive commitments they've made this morning to make sure that we have a good situation in 4 years for all the local residents of San Luis Obispo County and those that depend on this parcel for economic benefit. So thank you for having me here today. And I really look forward to working together with everybody.
Thank you so much, Senator Laird. We appreciate very much your leadership and support. And to your point, this MOU partnership can pursue so many of these opportunities for economic opportunity, as well as for conservation, and importantly, to integrate so many other complex things that are going on, other groups that are doing very important work. Where there's overlap, we can provide that type of support and collaboration that will help us all succeed in this very big opportunity. Our next guest speaker today is Jim Hamilton. He's the Executive Director of the Decommissioning Collaborative, and he's been an invaluable resource and trusted advisor to our community here on the Central Coast, and in particular for us at REACH. For a handful of communities nationwide that have faced it, nuclear power plant closure and decommissioning is a complex and unfamiliar process. That's what led Jim Hamilton to found the Nuclear Decommissioning Collaborative to serve as a clearinghouse for information and best practices to help communities just like ours navigate the process and achieve positive outcomes. Jim, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks, Andrew. It's good to be here, and greetings from the East Coast. Like Andrew mentioned, the collaborative is a nonprofit we were formed a few years ago with the goal of improving decommissioning processes and outcomes for all stakeholders. And we do that through a combination of research, policy, and advocacy. As far as research goes, over the last couple of years with a grant from the Department of Commerce, we looked at plants and decommissioning experiences across the country, including Diablo. We developed best practices and recommendations, and we published our findings last fall in this report, if you can see it or not. But as far as the MOU goes and its objectives, I just have one message. And that message is that the MOU is entirely consistent with our findings around best practices. Stakeholder collaboration and partnerships is just vital. It's the key. It helps you align interests and create a unified vision. And it's the vehicle for how you add value to the project and the community. I mentioned our findings in our report. All communities go through a series of phases in decommissioning. It's a learning curve for everybody. But phase 4 of the 5 phases is called partnership building. It's on page 18 in our report. It's exactly where you are right now, and I believe respectfully it's where you should be. A little bit about the process of how you got here from my perspective. Like Andrew mentioned, I've worked with REACH for a couple of years in their precursor organization, the Hourglass Project. What strikes me about this MOU is how it was developed and who's at the table. Words like organic, authentic, and representative come to mind. And from my perspective, it results in an honest and trusted vehicle to coalesce and harmonize diverse interests, not just around Parcel P, but the entire decommissioning process. I think you've done a ton of good work here to thread the needle and bring people to the table. As a former speaker said, I think you set the standard for how communities can come together and coalesce around a common vision for a decommissioning project. In my mind, you've created something of real value here. So I'm going to wrap up. Look, decommissioning is a long road. To be honest, it's a leap of faith. It's new for everybody. There are going to be bumps along the way, but the best way to navigate those hurdles is through collaboration and cooperation. This MOU, from my perspective, from our perspective, is a great first step, and we look forward to helping you in any way we can in the future. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Jim. We're so glad to have you with us today, and the Decommissioning Collaborative as advisors through this complex process, and we know we'll be hearing from you many times again in the future. Let's bring all our speakers back to invite some discussion and Q&A. Some of you have already contributed questions through the chat, and now's the time to hear what's on your mind. We'll get to as many questions as we can, but of course, we're limited by time. And for our speakers, just remember to try to keep responses as brief as possible. The first question comes to us from KSBY, and it is, what power does this partnership and the people involved in it have to make decisions regarding the decommissioning and future use of Parcel P? And then along with that, who's ultimately responsible for deciding what happens at Diablo once it's closed? It might be really good just to ask Jim to chime in briefly on that. And then if there are any of our elected leaders that would like to come in after that.
I'll be super brief. Decommissioning is a process to terminate a license by the NRC. That is it. That's the scope. Anything outside of that is outside of NRC jurisdiction. It's outside of the utility's responsibility to some extent. So organizations like REACH and this MOU help fill that gap by advocating for issues that are outside of the traditional decommissioning process. Who has the exact authority remains to be seen, but the only way you get what you want is by raising this issue through a broad coalition of stakeholders. And that's exactly what you're doing.
Senator, I saw you come off mute. Would you like to add to that?
Yes, because he described really well the process for decommissioning, but then there is another process, which is either political or organizing, which is how do we bring resources to bear from everybody that's on this call to try to contribute to what the next steps are. And I know when I was secretary, I worked to marshal money that would be available for conservation lands here, and we can still do that. For a lot of us, there might be state commissions, whether it's the State Lands Commission or the Coastal Commission or others, that either have jurisdiction or might bring something to the table to make sure that we can make the transition. And it might be that, for example, the state budget, if Cal Poly needs something that is unique to this, some of us might go to the mat to do that. So what this does is it takes, because the question was, what power does it have? It has the power to leverage resources and leverage from every different group that's on here to exponentially have us have the ability to meet the challenge that we're going to meet when Diablo Canyon is decommissioned.
Thank you, Senator Laird. Assemblymember Cunningham.
I just wanted to add to what the senator just said. It's really critical that we all leverage all of our resources, especially with respect to how quickly the decommissioning is done. There's roughly $4 billion in the decommissioning trust fund right now. And we did an economic impact, a bill that my predecessor, Cacho, and Senator Laird's predecessor, Senator Monning, co-authored, did an economic study. And the result of that study, if I can be as brief as possible, was you want that decommissioning money spent as quickly as possible in your community. You don't want that $4 billion spread out over 30 years. You want it, if you could pull it off, you want that $4 billion of decommissioning trust fund money spent in the first 5 years or the first 10 years. That will be direct economic stimulus for the community. So that's just something I wanted to flag, and we're all going to need to work together to make sure that happens.
Great, thank you, Assemblymember. And I was just wondering, before we move on to a second question, this was a really rich question that covers a lot of territory. Did Supervisor Ortiz-Legg or Supervisor Compton want to chime in? Supervisor Ortiz-Legg.
Yeah, I'll chime in. I think it was well put in the fact that, you know, when those of us on the ground here work with our associates throughout the state, as well as the federal government, that we can all come together with all of our resources to make sure. And obviously, being the land use agency for the county, we're going to help create a smooth path as possible to be able to do exactly what Assemblyman Cunningham said, and that is to try to quickly do the decommissioning and make sure that we have local workforce happening and all of that. So, there's going to be a lot of conversations, and I really appreciate Mr. Hamilton being on here with us, because it really does give the overview of what this is like, and if we got a lot of paths to go on, but we're here together to do that.
Thank you very much, Supervisor. I want to move on to a second question, since we do have some time here. So the second question is this. We know that decommissioning should begin in 2025 when both reactors have shut down. What is the time frame for decisions to be made? Where are the biggest hurdles? So it's a two-part question: time frame and hurdles. Is there anyone that would like to take a stab at this one? So I'm going to pick on Jim again, because this one sounds highly technical, and maybe we can tease out some other responses as well.
As far as, so decommissioning is going to start around 2025, right? Decisions around that are being made now. They were made yesterday, they were made last month. PG&E is going to hire somebody to do this work. I would imagine those conversations are happening right now. They're making decisions right now about how this is going to unfold. So the timing of this, I think, is opportune, because if you want to influence outcomes, you don't start having conversations in 2025. You start having them now.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, and of course, we do recognize that as these decisions are being made, fewer degrees of freedom remain open to our community when it comes to repurposing, for example, and many other opportunities that we will want to have as options for our community, as has been discussed by all of our MOU participants here. So not seeing anyone coming off mute, I'd like to move to the third question that we have up here. And the third question is it's from Kyla, actually, and it's: have you considered applying for Land Water Conservation Fund money to help fund transition from nuclear plant to repurposed uses, including repurposing and conserving land?
Yes, the Land and Water Conservation Fund is a great source of funding for kind of our traditional projects that land trusts do across the country. In our state, a lot of that money funnels through state entities and different programs there. So that's where this group can come together, work closely with our state partners, including Senator Laird, to make sure that we route some of that funding, or at least get a chance to apply for some of that funding for this. So yes, that is on our list of possible sources of funding.
Thank you, Kyla.
Great. And you know what? I see that we are at the 11 o'clock hour. I know we have some more questions we didn't get to. If you have more discussion that you'd like to have with us via the MOU group, you can submit those to info@reachcentralcoast.org, and we'll continue the dialogue. Thank you to each one of our speakers for your comments and the work that you and your teams have put into this effort so far. And thank you all on the call for making time to be here to support this urgent and important opportunity. You can be on the lookout for a follow-up email from us, and that email is going to include a copy of the MOU and the announcements of both partnerships. It will also have a link to this video recording. If you don't see it, make sure you do check your spam filter. Also, make sure you're subscribed to our newsletter, which you can do at reachcentralcoast.org to receive updates on this initiative, as well as others in the Reach 2030 plan to transform the region's economy. Thank you again so much for joining us, and have a wonderful rest of your day.